So, Mark, the Chinese are fighting back with fashion, social media, some crazy stuff going on there. I had a terrible TV mounting experience. I want to talk about apps and getting help in your home and all of the other problems. You're going to follow up on your giant battle with AA, all of that coming up right now.
I don't know about giant.
So let's follow up on that. On the last show, you talked about your struggles with AA, and what is the update with all of that?
Yeah, so I responded to the email before the show saying I want a non-AI candid response. This didn't do anything for me, and drum roll, please. I got no response. So nothing happened. Then like 4 or 5 days later, Derek, who owns Travel on Points, said, "Oh, his LP is finally posted for 2024." He had a statement cut for his credit card like a couple days before mine. So I went and checked mine, and my LPs have finally updated. And then I went in to see like if the promotion reactivated, and it did not. It was still, you did not complete phase two, X'd off, but it showed 100% completed in the little thing. Like that did update. So it went from 14,000 short to a couple hundred over. And I was like, what the heck is this? Like it updates, says I completed it, but still says you're done. So I screenshot that, responded to the email that I originally sent back and didn't get a response to, and said, hey, see, I did. They updated. I completed the thing and I don't get it. This should be fixed. And kudos to them. Like I don't know if it was same day or next day. They emailed me back, said, hey, you got Platinum Pro again. You're in the thing was reactivated, so I can earn it. If I earn another like 40,000 LPs by August, early August, I get to keep it. But they did that, and then I got another email like from somebody else saying I tried to call you, but it didn't get through, and they left a voicemail. So like 3 different people ended up contacting me about this, which I find kind of shocking. I posted about it on Twitter before it was updated, or once it was updated, and didn't get a response there, and tagged American Air. So it was like, I don't know. I got to the right person eventually, or a couple of the right people. It shouldn't take 2 times reaching out to get to that point, but they did. They did well. Kudos to them.
Yeah, it's interesting how they came through, and I'm sure you weren't the only person to have this problem. Just seeing the screenshot where it completed, right? So their system completed it, saying, okay, these LPs went through the right timeline, right? They credited it to the right timeline, but their system closed out the status matcher and it was done. So I'm sure there's plenty of cases of that where they had to intervene. I think the real problem here, they came through for you. Everything's great. The real problem is these cookie cutter responses in the first place. They really piss off customers, especially customers who have spent the time to really explain the problem. And it just seems, I don't understand why companies think that their first line of defense should be this type of thing. Uh, maybe there should be more training. Whereas if it's a basic sort of question or response, yeah, give them a boilerplate and then get the information. But if somebody's done this, you should train your agents to really address the problem or to get it somewhere else. Because I don't think companies really understand how much it pisses you off when you write something and you go into detail and then you get this thing that doesn't even account for that. So you've already sort of messed up that first interaction. And so many companies get that wrong.
Yeah, and the second time I sent it in, that was the first email response. She said, I get it. I understand what you're saying. I'm forwarding this to the property department." And then I got an email from a person in that department that said she had already updated it to Platinum Pro. And it is very annoying. I think they learned it from the insurance companies where they just say deny, deny, deny the first couple of times and hope people give up. So maybe they're just hoping that's enough to get people off their plate. Like I'm assuming half the people out there, if not more, probably get that boilerplate response and go, well, that was annoying, but I'm not going to waste my time with this. Fine, whatever. So maybe they save a ton of money and effort doing it this way.
Yeah, I mean, they have a lot of analysts and they're figuring out a lot of stuff and a lot of knowledge. So maybe that is what it is. It's breakage, or and maybe everybody's not like me or you. I just know that it really upsets me because I do take the time. We are more, educated in not educated in general. I just mean in this sort of realm, dealing with airlines and hotels and sort of stuff. We do this a lot more often. So I do know to like try to put as much detail in the beginning and try to take the time to craft my sort of email in the right way. And so I always get frustrated with that, but it's not just airlines, it's Amazon, it's everybody. It just seems like there's no focus on customer service these days. I'm really glad it worked out for you. Are you going to go for the 40,000 LPs to keep it past because this is the last little leg, right? And then you keep it through the end of the cycle, right?
Yeah, then I keep it till February of next year. I'll probably, I spend on the card regularly at the gas station and stuff like that, and do some things with that type of spend. So I'll probably just do it in my natural rhythm, and then see where I'm at when I get close. I imagine I'll be close enough that makes it worth doing. Kind of like this time around, like I got to like 3 weeks out, and I was like, okay, $14,000. That's what I got to spend. I'll make it happen. So I think, yes, I'm not like guaranteeing it right now, but we'll see how it plays out. But I think just naturally I'll get close enough that I'll make it worth it.
So I wanted to talk. I know TV mounting isn't really in the in the realm of here, but I think that these
This
days
is where
more
people turn it off.
no, but I think we're using more and more apps for like help with services and things like that, right? And so this is why I wanted to address this, not specifically to talk about my TV mounting, but I did buy a new TV recently, and it came with mounting for free. It was from LG, and so they had TV mounting through the Handy app, and that's an app that you can go and hire a handyman to come to your house to do things like mount a TV.
Did you get Johnny from Cobra Kai? Do you ever watch that show?
I have not watched Cobra Kai. I don't know, for some reason I just haven't.
Man.
I haven't done it. Yeah, I was a Karate Kid fan when I was a kid, but I just it hasn't drawn me in. But you recommend it?
Yeah, I think. I mean, the first season was on YouTube TV or YouTube Red or whatever it was, so it's a bit clunky, but it kind of finds its thing. It's cheesy and corny, just like Karate Kid, but I think they did a pretty good job with it. It's fun. And then we went to the Minecraft movie this weekend with my son, and there was a preview for like the newest Karate Kid that has Daniel Russo tied into it. So I don't know if they'll link back to that at all, but it was just kind of cool.
Well, before I get back to my thing, The Expanse, so for people following, we haven't talked about TV in a long time. So I had talked about how I couldn't get into The Expanse. This is a sci-fi show on Amazon Prime. And Mark had said how good this show was. So I was just determined to finally get into it. And I kept watching it at night and falling asleep. So then I just started watching it kind of like in the background as I was doing other things. And that allowed me to kind of get into the first season. And then I really did get into it. And then eventually, it took me a couple months. I hadn't even told you this, but over the last couple months, since we talked about it, I did watch the whole series. And it is pretty good.
Oh.
It isn't the best. It isn't the best sci-fi, but it's pretty good. And definitely recommend The Expanse.
Yeah, I think it's one of my favorite sci-fi shows just because I think the characters are really good, and it does well for space. It's an interesting story, how you could see something in the future playing out politically and all those things with Mars and Earth. And I thought it was just kind of an interesting take on it. But yeah, I love it. But yeah, I'm glad you finally got through it.
And you can definitely see where it moved. It was on Sci-Fi, I think, the first 3 seasons, and then it moved to Amazon Prime for the later seasons. And Amazon clearly gave it a much bigger budget than Sci-Fi did. So you can kind of see the expansion of the quality of the series as far as like the visuals and stuff. The actors were great, as you said. The casting was great. Characters are great, and it really takes place in a distant future where you have people living on Mars, people living on Earth, and then people who sort of mine and live in between the belters. And it's sort of almost like a spiritual follow-up to For All Mankind on Apple TV, which shows the sort of beginning. It starts in the 1960s and then shows an alternate reality and kind of jumps ahead. Now they're on Mars, and you're starting to see where that potential society that you see in the other show is there. So anyway, recommendations for TV. Let's talk about Handy. I would never use an app like this. Have you ever used an app to like hire somebody? I don't like. I want to like have more personal recommendations, things like that. So that's the first
especially
sort of
for a handyman. Yeah, especially for a handyman.
So I would never use this app, but it came for free, and so they assigned the people. So usually in the Handy app, you could go through, look at reviews, and decide who you want to hire, and I didn't get that choice, and they had 2 people come in. They're completely incompetent.
You can choose your people in the Handy app.
Well, it's very important, the reviews, and to make sure that they do a good job, Mark, with what they do. But anyway, they come completely incompetent. Then we had to have other people come. They were completely incompetent. Had to like kind of like go in and make them fix things because the TV is supposed to be flat again. The point is, it's getting so hard to like get good help or get good things, and these app-based things are sort of prevalent in our lives. And I just wanted to talk about that a little bit because it is a frustrating experience and it's hard to sort of get what you want these days in the world, right? I just want my TV mounted. It should be, you hire somebody, it should just happen. And it just like with your AA experience, so much of the world these days is us having to jump through these hoops to get what we should just get in the first place. That's become increasingly frustrating for me. But I will say that in the end, they did it right, even though it took like multiple visits, coming back, all of this other stuff. It's just amount
Do you
of
wish
TV.
you just do you wish you just did it yourself at that point?
Well,
Like,
it's a difficult mounting because of the wall
okay,
and where the studs are and all of that. But again, we are hiring a professional. And we even paid
yeah.
above for the custom stuff. So, we even paid more for the custom stuff. And yeah, but it's just not that. It's everything I seem to do when you hire. I just want to be able to hire somebody and it's good, or I want to be able to deal with a promotion with AA and it's good. And I guess that's not the way the world is. It just seems like more things break or are not the way they're supposed to be in 2025 compared to before.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the problem. All these companies are, contracting out to third parties and stuff like that, and you see it in a lot of construction areas. And we have to get a new roof on the house, and when the guy came out, one of the selling points was we have all in-house installers. We don't subcontract to anyone, which immediately I'm like, okay, cool. So these people are doing it every day. Two, they're going to be under your care. So if they mess up, you're going to be the one to fix it or take care of it, or about it, those type of things, versus third party will come in and just probably got it because they're the lowest bid and going to do it as quickly and easily as possible, so they can move on to the next job. And where this is like the company names behind it, stuff like that. So I do think it's something, like Geek Squad with Best Buy. If you buy it from Best Buy, does somebody from the Geek Squad band, I don't know, they're more like technical stuff, but do they have something like that where those people, that's all they're doing all day is hanging TVs? So that's the problem when you go to like this type of app where it's a general, can help anything, like rake your leaves, clean out your gutters. Oh, okay, yeah, I'll figure out how to hang a TV. It's just not specified enough.
Yeah, they just check boxes for every skill that they have, right? And they're just a handyman. And this is just the gig economy, and there's nothing wrong with people doing this or not. Or, I'm sure these guys are starting their own business too. Maybe eventually they'll get to the point where they have a business with everybody working for them and all that. It's just this sort of maybe amateur, I don't know. Like it just the quality of everything is just lower because of this. I don't hate the people who came out or the system, but this is really how we do business these days a lot of times. And we're encouraging people to do the gig economy, to drive, to do these things, to do these side hustles. And yeah, it just means that you're going to have sort of unqualified people doing it. And I don't know where I was going with that other than to complain and say, I wouldn't use
Don't
the
buy a
handy
TV.
app. Let's just put it
Buy a
that
stand.
way. There you go. There you go. So the other thing that happened this week, there's been a lot of Universal in the news, which I know you don't want to talk about, but they have a lot of interesting. Epic Universe is opening in May, but they've been doing previews. So if you're interested in what Epic Universe is, this week they released the embargo for people in the parks, so you can see videos and everything with Universal's newest theme park in Orlando, which is a world-class theme park. Let's just put it that way. Some people saying some of the dark rides there are well above what Disney's doing, best in the world. I'm purposely not looking at videos of the rides themselves because I want to experience them myself. But
Yeah.
that is happening. And then as soon as that sort of got in the news, the Universal finally announced what has sort of been in the works for a couple of years, Universal Studios Great Britain, which will be about an hour and a half north of London. And they are starting work on that. And so Universal expanding to Europe. And they used to have a park in Europe, Port Aventura in Barcelona, that they used to own, which is still there, but not Universal. Barcelona, yes. It's a beautiful place. But this is big news for Universal. And I think Great Britain getting a Universal Studios, huge tourism news. And then for people looking at Orlando, check out the Epic Universe videos. Go on social media and look at it. At least look at the park. You'll see that if you are into this, if you're into theme parks at all, even visiting with kids and families, this is going to be an incredible park for you to take kids and to visit. So it should be on your radar.
So this is a lot bigger than just Super Nintendo or Super Mario World or whatever. There's a lot more going to this park.
So yeah, Epic Universe has this sort of interesting theme with these portals. So the main entrance is, or the main area is called Celestial Park, and that is home to a launched dueling roller coaster, which is really neat. Carousel, lots of water features. It's very much themed to the early 20th century. Very beautiful, kind of the celestial theme. It's hard to describe, but it's really cool. And then you have these different portals. So one of them is Super Nintendo World, and that houses the Mario Kart ride, Donkey Kong coaster, stuff like that. Then you have the Universal's Monsters Land, which has Monsters Unchained, which a lot of people are saying is the best dark ride in the world now. Also a coaster in there. Then you have the Harry Potter Land, the Ministry of Magic, which is Paris recreated. So it's a whole nother Potter Land, a third one there. And then you have the Isle of Berk, which is a whole How to Train Your Dragon Land with a coaster, bunches of rides, shows, all of that stuff. So a very wide ranging thing. All of these lands are incredibly detailed. There's no real cutbacks here as far as being cheap. And this is really Universal saying we are now on Disney's level. We're here going forward. And then they're announcing, coming to Great Britain as well. So that's huge for Attack on Disney because so many British people go to Disneyland Paris. And I know that this isn't like the main topic of the show. Joe isn't here, but this is a big changing. And I think a lot of people should look out for Universal on their stuff. And then, of course, there's Horror Unleashed coming to Vegas as well.
It's so big that it's not even wide ranging. It's wide ranging.
Are you making fun of my stutter? You cannot make fun of my stutter, Mr. Stutter. That's not fair. That's not fair.
That was such a good one, though. It was like, wide. It just like rolled right into it. That was perfect. No, I'm excited for this, mainly because when we go in June, I think it'll be open already. So maybe it will make the other two parks less busy because everybody will want to go to this one. So I'm kind of excited for that. The one thing I'm surprised is that Monsters got one of the 4 or 5 areas. I just didn't think that was such a big brand, but maybe it is with smaller kids. I don't know, but How to Train Your Dragon, definitely get it, especially with that new movie that they're coming out with. Harry Potter, of course, and Super Nintendo, yes, but Monsters, I'm like, oh, okay. Maybe they ran out of good stuff. I don't.
The Universal Monsters, though, are fairly popular, and the reports I've been hearing from people there is that area is the best in the park. They built the full Frankenstein's castle there, and it's very, very well done. And they are incorporating all of the sort of classic Universal monsters, the werewolf, Frankenstein. I don't know. I'm trying to think of Bride of Frankenstein. All of them are there, and I've heard that the ride is incredible. And then they also have a launch coaster themed, the Curse of the Werewolf, themed to the werewolf in that area as well. There's not a crazy amount of rides. I think 10 or 11 in there, all around the park, but they're all big, very immersive things. And so, yeah, Universal stepping up their game. Look for that. They are also building their new kids park in Frisco, Texas, north of Dallas. I think it's supposed to open next year. Like I said, Horror Unleashed in Vegas opening in 2025. Epic Universe opening this year. Universal Great Britain under construction. Universal in the theme park business is balls to the wall, I guess.
Yeah, I still don't have my tickets for June. I don't think it'll be a problem, but I've been kind of like holding out because I want to put it on the Capital One Venture card. I want to go through Undercover Tour so I can wipe it out, but I have other stuff for the trip that we booked to London and Paris that I'm still like working down, and I don't want to add because you only get 3 months to do it. I don't want to add another ticking clock until I'm most of the way through that stuff, so I have time to work it off and everything. So I'm kind of pushing that out a bit. Normally I would have the tickets already, but I don't think there's a risk of it. I can't think of the last time I heard of them like selling out, so I don't think that's a problem. But yeah, just I'm not like you. I don't like to do it 27 minutes before, buy my tickets and figure out where I'm going.
Which I think back in the day at amusement theme parks, people just walked up to the gate and bought their tickets.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think unless you're going on like a very specific day with special, I wouldn't
like
worry about
Tuesday, or Wednesday, so I don't think it'll be busy. Yeah,
I wouldn't worry about that at all. The other thing I wanted to talk about today is this interesting. Obviously, there's a trade war going on with China. We're not going to talk politics here. A lot of interesting things, and for people who travel, I've been to China many times, and so I kind of have a different view of all of this than maybe somebody who's never been there. But the funniest thing that came out of this is over the last couple days, all of these factories in China are making these social media videos in English talking about how all of the luxury brands are making their bags, their clothes in China, then shipping them off to, let's say, Europe to get rebranded, rebadged, and then sold. Like we're talking Louis Vuitton, Hermes, all these different brands. And then it seems like they're offering to sell this stuff to consumers in the US as well. So it's interesting. China's never been very protective of IP and counterfeits and stuff like that. But it seems like maybe they've opened the floodgates to start for these factories to start just selling these designs. Because you would think that Louis Vuitton would own the design, right? That they design their stuff and they own it, so that the Chinese factory can't sell it. But it does seem like they're going around that. And this is just a wild time. And we're not, again, you can find plenty of podcasts to talk about the economics of all this and all the politics of it. I just think it's just a fascinating time that the Chinese are, the way they're retaliating with social media here is pretty brilliant, I would say.
Yeah, it's definitely a targeted type of thing, but I mean, we've all known that this is how it's worked, where made in one place for super cheap, finished in another, and then you're paying for the brand name, or to, just to have that cachet, on the front of the bag. You could get the same bag for, like, I think the Birkin bag, he said you could buy for $1,000 if you're just talking about the leathers and everything that's put into it, and the handcrafted part. And then the other, like, 35,000 is the name getting stamped on there. So you can walk around with a Birkin bag, but it doesn't say Birkin. And some people will be like, hey, it's still not worth it. Like, they don't care that the bag's made of this stuff. They care that it says Birkin on it. So I don't know that it will work totally, for the people that they're aiming at. It's definitely going to upset the brands that are using them to make it. If that is true the case, that they are made in China, this could be them just reverse engineering these bags and saying they can make them now. I don't know. I think that's part of the problem, is that nobody in China doesn't hold up to anybody else's laws or rules or IP or anything that you've discovered. China just reverse engineers it and then sells it for cheaper. And I think that's part of the problem the world has, and why all of this is going on. So this is just like doubling down on that. I don't know if it's going to end well for China, bad for China, good for us, bad for us. I don't know, but it's like you said, it's going to be interesting to watch.
But I think that the pervasive view here in the US is that China is sort of backwards, or that they're not capable of creating high quality goods. And just remember that the iPhone is built in China. They have moved some to India, but a lot of these manufacturing is happening in China because they are so skilled at making this stuff. It's because they can make the highest quality goods. So yes, they have cheap knockoffs.
This just made me think, have you seen the memes of, like, them saying Americans building the iPhone? It's all these, like, super obese people.
Oh my God.
I'm
it's so sad. It's so offensive. It's kind of true and kind of sad. And
it's a little bit true, but it's not like every American walking around is, 500 pounds, but it's just like, wow, it's getting very bizarre. And, we've always heard China isn't allowed to use certain US things like Twitter and stuff like that. So, or at least I think that's it. But like certain social media you can't use when you're in China, only certain are approved. So it's kind of wild that this is like going out there broad, and they're coming down the doors, breaking open, which I know TikTok's different in that respect. But yeah, it's crazy. Sorry, I had to cut you off because I had forgotten about those until you said the manufacturing in India.
I wish I could forget about those videos. They're kind of sad, but it shows the way that they look at us. I mean, the Chinese domestically do not have American social media, so the people who are creating these videos, they speak very good English, and clearly they are allowed to do that. And wouldn't be surprised if the government is behind allowing them to do this. I mean, they're fighting back, and this is a whole sort of thing. But I think that the main takeaway for a lot of people, I don't know people in this space, maybe people who have traveled are under this illusion, but I think a lot of people just think all China makes is cheap crap, right? They rip off our stuff, they steal our IP, all of that stuff. And I think that they're trying to aim to prove that a lot of the good quality stuff that you get, even if you don't know it's made there, it is. In that Birkin video, again, we don't know. Yeah, that factory might not make Birkin bags, and he's just making all this up. But I've seen enough videos where I feel this is pretty true. But he breaks down the cost of all the materials going into the back, the top leathers, the top zippers, everything that's, top of the line. And I was kind of surprised, $1,000 for a Birkin bag. I didn't know what the final number would be on a cost, But yeah, they sell for 38,000. And I was thinking, hell, where can I sign up to buy this $1,000 bag to give to my wife with the best leathers and stuff? The big question, of course, would be, I don't think she would care. I think she would enjoy it because she's not like into the crazy stuff. But as people know, Birkins specifically, that's really a status symbol. Like for super wealthy women, how many Birkins do you have in your closet? So I don't think that they're gonna
put
want the
Brickman
fake
on
ones.
it instead. Like put a gold Brickman instead of Birkin, and hope people don't look too closely. I don't know. I hope what we all learn from this, or what comes out of this, is how ridiculous high-end goods are. You know, you're paying a $36,000 markup just for the name, and a lot of that is marketing budget and stuff, and they built it up over time. But think about how insane that is. Like it should be under $10,000 if it was just any other thing. It's just insane that we're allowing that kind of markup, and it's still wanting to go after. I don't know if this helps make it more like, oh, I can afford to throw away $37,000, so that makes me even more important. Maybe this helps the brands in the long run. I wouldn't be surprised if it does, because it's that crazy. But if anything, you should learn that none of these bags are worth it, and it's just stupid spending. And if you have the money, fine, do what you want. But like it's frivolous and crazy. But that's why we always like going to the Bahamas, because you go to the straw market and they have like the knockoff bags, which probably came from China, and you can get a Louis Vuitton for like $100 or $80. You can even do that in the U.S. There's a lady that works at my wife's work that sells pretty decent looking knockoffs that say Louis Vuitton and stuff, and she can get them for like $60. So I think these are already out there. The question is, how truthful is this? Is this just that cheap knockoff stuff and they're trying to make it look like it's not? I don't know.
Well, that's the big sort of thing here. And what would be the next step of this is if the factories decide to really set up websites and start selling to us. Because even with the tariffs, remember the tariff is on the price of the good, not on the price we pay. So let's say that there's a 25% tariff and it's costing them. There's a lot of examples of like Nike shoes that are being sold for $100 here. The cost is $10. And if you could buy that shoe from China for $10 and pay the 25% tariff of $250, and maybe even other tariffs, even if it's 100 and something percent, it's still going to be significantly cheaper than buying it from Nike. And I think this is the attack that they're going on. I think that's why they're doing it.
Swoosh, nobody wants it. You don't want the shoe. Nobody cares about the damn shoe.
I think a lot of people do. I think the people who are but I think there's a whole lot of women in the world who never thought they're going to get a Birkin bag, right? The super rich, sure, they're getting Birkin bags, but I know there's a lot of people who would love to have the high quality $1,000 Birkin bag that doesn't have the name on it because they get a great quality item and they can buy that directly.
We are opposites of this, which we're opposites to most things, but I think people are buying the name, and I think that's all that matters to them.
But there's like
really. I mean, you can get a really good bag for $200. I don't think it's going to be that much of a difference at $1,000. That if you don't have the name, you're not going to feel like a fraud, and it's not going to be worth it.
I just think that you're like underestimating. So yes, people buy the name, but the top 1/10 of 1% of the population affords these Birkin bags or whatever it is, and among those people, they would never be caught dead in an unbranded Birkin bag. But there's like a lot of people on Earth that will never, like, it's never even in their realm that they're going to spend $38,000 for a purse, but they would for $1,000 purse, and they want something nice. And yeah, I mean, if it's still a Birkin bag as far as the design, the big question is if these factories really are building these for companies like Louis Vuitton and Hermes and all these other companies and even Nike, and they start doing all this, now they're kind of saying, okay, buy from us. Now, where do they manufacture? You can't manufacture your bag at the factory that's now selling it directly. And I think that this is going to cause a lot of issues if they continue this path. I think it's brilliant by the Chinese. And I think in the end, we need to figure out a way to work together. And the Chinese have accomplished a whole lot. If you look at the car industry, technology, they really have over the last 10 years. They are a leader in so many industries. And I'm not an apologist for them. I love both countries. I'm from here. I love visiting China. I think it's fascinating to watch their growth and their change. And, I just think that a lot of people here seem to think that we can do whatever we want and that they're not going to have a response. And whatever their response is, this was brilliant. Whether it was the government telling these factory owners to go down and make these videos.
These are all government workers, please.
Well, I don't think they're government workers. I think.
100% think they are.
I don't think they're workers, but I think that the way, there's a weird separation of things. I think that these are probably factory owners. They're A lot of these people are well traveled. They travel here all the time because they have to do business and all this trade going on. If you really own a factory where you're trading with all these luxury brands, you're very exposed to Western culture anyway. So I think that they do live in China, but they know a lot of stuff. And the way they're even talking to us in these videos is very Western. It's fascinating. And I don't want a trade war. I don't think it's going to be good, but you know what? Maybe the great thing about me, Mark, is I'm not in charge of anything, so I can just sit back and be interested in all of this, and we can talk about these little wacky sort of things happening. Let the people who are in charge or the politicians or political pundits debate all of that stuff. But yeah, culturally, this is something very different, and it's changing. And I don't. It's interesting to see more Chinese people on American social media, though. And is that a good or bad thing? We saw this with TikTok, them kind of trying to share the cultural exchange and all of this stuff. Is that good that we get more kind of direct connection with them since we haven't really had that?
I don't know. I think social media has kind of destroyed the fabric of the world, to be honest. And I say that as we are doing this on social media channels and everything. But I think TikTok's one of the worst things to ever happen to my kids' generation, your kids, your daughter's generation. I don't think it's going to lead to anything good. It has people doing stupid stuff, and yes, people always did stupid stuff, but they shared it with a small circle, and now they're sharing it, at times with millions of people, and then everybody thinks that's the normal thing to do. And I just think it's made, it brought people closer together, but also has opened, criticism easier, and people get along less. They talk face to face less, and when you're on the internet, you can say things, and you don't have to get immediate reaction, so you become more volatile, and the more out there you get, the more likes and views you get. So I think it's just all toxic. It's all drawn back to, if you look at the toxicity in the world, if you go back to when social media started to take off, it's grown from there. So I don't think it's a good thing overall. I mean, yes, it's interesting to see other cultures that you would have to have flown there or visited or watched a documentary or something like that. So it has its good sides, but most of it's bad, in my opinion. I do wonder, does this backfire on them? Like, if I'm, a bag person in France or whatever, I'm like, oh, all right, let's find another manufacturer somewhere else. If they were in fact making the bags, I'm not ever going there again. And that's part of the problem with China is, you give them your like patented goods that you have, legally, you're the only one that has to do it. You put all the time, effort, money into designing this, creating this, the way it's put together, what's used, all this stuff. And then they've been doing it, and now they're like, all right, I'm going to make some money off of this. Like, I'm never doing business with them again. So the question is, does that backfire? Do they look elsewhere going forward? Who knows? I mean, but I think this is kind of unearthed to more people of what world travelers already knew. You can fly places and go places and buy the thing that is expensive here, cheaper there, and then go home and you can pay the tariffs and taxes and everything, and it comes way cheaper. This was in my international business class. He said, rich people fly to Germany to buy a used Mercedes or BMW or whatever. They buy it much cheaper there. They can ship it back to America, and it's still $10,000-$15,000 cheaper than when they buy it here, and then they get a free vacation out of it. And they've been doing this for decades. So, and people fly to America to buy certain things because it's way cheaper in America than it is in their country or whatever. So it goes both ways all around the world. And this has been maybe it's becoming more accessible now if this plays out the way it is. But I don't know. Yeah.
I mean, Chinese tourists come here a lot, and there's people in Vegas specifically. You see this because there are people here who facilitate all of this stuff, but they come here to buy luxury goods. I know one of the outlet malls here had, well, ties it all in, Simon gift cards. I know years ago going to one of the Simon places that the vast majority of the gift cards they sold were to people who organized Chinese tours of tourists that were coming here, but they would organize time for them to go to the malls and buy the goods because for whatever reason, those specific things were more expensive there. So yeah, that's good. And I also saw a video talking about, hey, American tourists come here, buy, your personal allowance worth of stuff, which is it, $6,000, I think. I forget what the amount is, that you can bring in personal belongings and then go back and sell it at home. It's wild that this stuff is happening. But I think, I've seen all these videos when the TikTok ban was happening, people finally getting a look at what China was. And those videos coming out of China were very of one message, right? They're showing one side of China. And I think that's great. There's obviously good and bad to everywhere. And I think similar to maybe the Chinese have a view of us that we're all these fat Americans making these things, like those videos that you talked about, those very disturbing videos. I think that Americans have a weird view of the Chinese as well. And then the more that the real Chinese and real Americans can talk to each other, the number one take I always had from China going there the first time in 2008 was that I spent 2 months there. I went to cities that still white people don't go to, second and third tier cities way in, just meaning that they don't see a lot of foreigners. You go to Shanghai, there's foreigners everywhere. It's a very Western feeling in many areas, but you would go to these places and they're just people living their lives. They own businesses. They're doing their things. This isn't a wider political argument, but in all these times of uncertainty and everything going on, just remember that there's just people with their families trying to do their best, live their lives. And I think that that's a good place to approach all of this. And I've always found the Chinese culture fascinating, and I love my culture here too. So I just so much villainization. And I think that the average person just doesn't have an idea. I think the average American thinks that the Chinese are so backwards and that they don't have any idea of what's going on. And the average Chinese person, it seems like, I have less of a view of that, but it seems like either they have very negative views of what Americans are. And there are some negatives in both places, but we're all just people. This is the thing that seems to get lost in the political discussion. I won't get there, but we're all people here. And there's so much anger and nonsense, and maybe social media is causing this and we're overexposed, but let's be a little bit nicer. Isn't that the reason we travel and expose ourselves to other cultures? And there's just no niceness. Americans are better in the world when there's other people in the world outside of it. And that is the one place I will criticize Americans, is that we just think we are the best ever and that nobody else compares. And we just live in a world full of other people who are incredible too. America's an incredible country. There's other incredible countries, and there's amazing culture, history, and people to meet everywhere. And you should do it. And that should be the focus of what we do. And, go let politicians yell at each other.
I don't know. Everywhere I go, they think I'm from Texas and I carry a gun. So,
which is kind of it's funny because you are a little stereotypical in some way, like a stereotypical Midwestern dad in many ways. Especially like in a bar, like just the way you talk, you joke. A lot of that is very Midwestern. You have a lot of Midwestern culture to you, and I think a lot of Americans would recognize that in meeting you. But it's funny how what it is to be an American gets boiled down when you view it from, like, let's say a Chinese lens. They just see us as these fat things with no culture and whatever it is. It's so easy to boil everything down to nothing. And the truth is there's so much diversity within America and American culture. There is the same in China. There's the same everywhere else. And it's so easy to boil everything down to this and that and all of it. And yeah, I think it's fascinating. I want to buy, the moral of this story is I want to buy that $1,000 bag right now for my wife. And then I'll say, this is the finest leather, $350 just for this piece of Italian leather.
Okay. Birkin.
You need to ask your wife to see if she would want one.
Is it going to be Nikes with an upside down swoosh? Is that the next thing?
No, but see, you're talking about two different things. You're talking about counterfeits, and we're talking about authentic bags without the logo, right? If they were to actually,
but the logo is the thing. That's what I'm saying. The logo is the thing.
No, but it's not. But the counterfeits you're talking about are lower quality. They're not made with the same goods, and you can get them everywhere. Like, that's a whole different thing.
If you put a Nike shoe without Nike on it for $50 next to a shoe with Nike on it for $100, I feel like most people are going to pick the $100 shoe because they don't really care about the comfort, the usefulness. They care that it says Nike, and that's the thing. So I don't know that
for Nike, I agree, but for really expensive goods that are beyond people's pale, like, I think that could be it. I don't know. Fascinating debate. Let us know what you guys think about anything else to add to this before we close up. I don't want to cut you off.
No, this will be interesting comments, I'm sure.
Hey, if I could sell the world a Coke in perfect
harmony.
Sean
opened the door to this, so he can't get upset when the comments are the comments.
What are the comments? Like, this is talking about travel related to, I don't know, comment away.
Yeah.
So there you go. Thanks so much for watching. Make sure to check out 20-Minute Travel on Wednesday for all of the miles and points news, credit card offers, all the cool bonuses, bank bonuses, all the good stuff coming on Wednesday. Talk to you guys next time.
Have a good week, everybody.